Join us for an insightful discussion on breaking barriers, overcoming challenges, and societal biases facing women entrepreneurs. This webinar aims to delve into the unique obstacles that women in business often encounter, from deeply rooted societal prejudices to everyday challenges in the entrepreneurial world. But more than just highlighting the problems, we'll be shedding light on empowering strategies and real world solutions to help women overcome these barriers. Hear first hand experiences from leading academic, gain insights from subject matter expert, and discover actionable tips to navigate the business landscape with resilience and confidence. Whether you're a seasoned businesswoman, an aspiring entrepreneur, or someone interested in promoting equality, diversity, gender equity in the business realm, this webinar offers invaluable insights to inspire, change, and drive success. Come and be part of this transformative conversation, because when women succeed, we all benefit. Together, let's champion a more inclusive and equitable entrepreneurial future.
Nice.
Well. Good evening, Dr. Matibe. Good evening. Good evening, Yola. Dr. Matibe, Yola is a student who is in the WIL program from CPUT. PICTA does the youth development very well, and we're trying to contribute as much as possible, especially women, as it is Women's Month. We've got Yola until end of November, and welcome to you, who's another thought leader in the entrepreneurship space. As a woman, I feel very proud to be associated with people like you, especially PICTA benefits a lot. You know what you do for PICTA and the contribution that you make towards the youth. Good evening, and I don't want you as the HOD for Gibbs Business School. I think that's a good start from my side, and I don't want to say too little and too much on your profile. Please, if you can walk us through who is Dr. Matibe and what makes Dr. Matibe so passionate about entrepreneurship, especially looking at women and women development in general.
Wonderful. Good evening, everyone. Welcome, Yola, and I hope, because I'm also part of PICTA, so I look forward to engaging with you in other platforms outside this one. And thank you, Butsonabo, as I always call you. Thank you for inviting me on the platform. So, who is Dr. Matibe? Name is Mutidisi Matibe. I don't know whether I should start from where I grew up and my schooling, because that's where now this entrepreneurship is going to come in. So
Feel free.
Yeah, so that's much better. So Mutidisi Matibe is this girl from a very small town in the Free State called Virginia, and I'm a middle child. So I've got my sister and my late brother, and I studied in the township schools. And and I wear my all stars, I speak the language, I walk the walk, and so I'm very much passionate about township, because I grew up there and I know there's so much potential in the township. And with the research that tells us, Kuti, even today we still struggle in the township in terms of your sanitary pads, and also rural areas there you find young girls who are not able to go to school. They skip schools because now they need to stay at home for so many days, and those are the realities that I lived through and I witnessed. So that is how much, one of the reasons why I love township so much. And from there, studied at the University of Free State, did my first degree in HR, my honors in marketing. I did my master's in business management. But when it comes to master's, now this is where you specialize. And I didn't know what to do. But I knew in my heart that I always wanted to do something for previously disadvantaged. But what does that look like that I wanted to do? And because I was in a business, when I did my master's, I was in a business management department. Then I spoke to one professor in development studies who said to me, find a problem within the business, because now you have to still go back and teach about this. And so we worked with the professor, and I ended up finding Guti. I needed to do something on the small businesses in the township. So with my master's, I looked at the business support and the government policies, specifically on the support for small businesses, especially the informal businesses in the township. And that's what I did. I looked at in my master's. And so the findings were that normal ones, it's masters, that we have great entrepreneurship policies. We have great SMME policies in South Africa, and but however, the informal businesses in the township are still not getting access to. So these policies, they're not speaking to the entrepreneur on the ground, and they're still struggling. They are still facing the same challenges of funding, same challenges of access to markets, let alone now if you are a woman entrepreneur in the township. It's even worse, because you don't only need to prove yourself that my business is worth investing into, but you also need to prove yourself that I as a woman are also worth investing too. So as a woman entrepreneur in the township, for example, you work twice as much compared to a male entrepreneur in the township. So that was my my master's degree. Then I moved to University of Pretoria, and from there I thought to myself, what else to do? I then looked at, because I looked at multinational enterprises strategies, especially marketing strategies for the base of the pyramid, which is the low income market. And that is what I looked at. So currently in my research, I bring the two together. Look at the informal businesses in the townships. I look at the multinational strategies for the low income consumers. Or again, so that is the context. And I also research on the women businesses in the townships. So my context is the township economy, because I also believe that there are opportunities in the township. Just earlier today, I was talking to one of the township consultants as to understand this township economy, how big it is. And he was telling me that already with the I cannot reveal the name because I didn't ask him to speak about it in the interview, but he was already telling me that within their organization, they have about 9,000 or 99,000. I can't remember the stats correctly, of the entrepreneurs that are registered in their organization within the township space. And that says to you, there's so much opportunity in the township. All that needs to be done is to find ways to support entrepreneurs in the township, to find ways to work with them and include them in the mainstream economy, because some of them, I mean, not some majority of them are still excluded. And also one of the reasons is because most of them are informal, and research tells us that informal businesses are dominated by women. And it still boils back to say, as much as we have all these challenges in the entrepreneurship space, we have more challenges when it comes to township entrepreneurs. We have even worse challenges when it comes to women entrepreneurs, whether township or whether mainstream economy. So there's so much challenges that are looking at us. But here's the thing: the market for women entrepreneurs is immense. I just want to quote, just say a quote from was said by Jane Prokop, the Executive Vice President, Global Segment Lead for SMMEs at Masterstart. She says, investment in women entrepreneurs is an investment in the future growth, economic growth. So as the government, as a private sector, I think if we can take that quote and really see the importance of investing in women entrepreneurs. Women are mothers, and maybe I'm being biased right now. So you educate a woman, you educate the nation. You educate a man, you educate an
Right.
individual.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that saying, Jay, you're just saying, so if you're going to support a male business, so you're supporting one family business, could be an example, but you support a woman entrepreneur, then you are saying, let the revenue, let the money comes and flow in the economy, because they're able to, with their motherly instinct, with their female instinct, they're able to push it back into the economy. So if we can see that, then yes. I'll stop there. I've been saying a lot.
Right. So, and what I like about what you've said, it really puts women in the center of things. As
Yeah.
mothers, they understand the needs of the family, one,
Yeah.
and they've got an appreciation of the needs of the community as mothers. And again, if we look at informal, based on whose definition, because it is formal as far as the mother is concerned or the woman is concerned, in that one, the processes are easier that she runs. She's got her own systems that she understands. And I always got a question where it comes to, if you change the model or the format of the business, will it be the same business and be understood by the same person the same way? Will you not kill it? But those are questions that maybe one day we can entertain. Today
Truly.
we're
Yeah.
covering women entrepreneurship as part of Women's Month, and we think that women play a really critical role everywhere in the world, and this is what has been ignored through biases, through prejudices. And I think for me, it's culture that we don't want to let go. And culture, in my understanding, and you'll tell me this is your space, that culture comes as a result of socialization. So people were socialized that a woman's place is in the kitchen, and a woman's place is to bring up children, which is in my books, it's a very chauvinist approach. But if we were socialized to think the way we're thinking as men in this male dominated economy, what can we do as a start to reverse that socialization? How do we unculture and socialize and reculture?
Interesting question, Putwami. First of all, we need to unlearn and
Yeah,
relearn. We need
yeah.
to unlearn the culture that we have been taught by our elders, and we
Mm,
need to relearn the new culture that is more inclusive. I think that's where I'm
mm,
going to start. Because again, where is it written to say women belong in the kitchen? Where is it written that men belong in the garden? Nowhere. But based on our elders, who, as we grow, we learn these things. We saw our parents doing it, and it's been happening. So there's so many barriers. I'm just gonna mention, but I don't think we should dwell on the barriers. We need to maybe discuss it. How do we break these barriers? Because women belong in the kitchen according to culture, and they need to be the ones who are taking care of the children, the extended families. They're the ones who needs to be in the house and not be strategic and not be business minded and not to be entrepreneurial. Because again, you find that the literature where it says if women are being entrepreneurial, there's a mindset that, oh no, because it's a woman business, it's an NGO, so they're just there
mm,
to help,
mm.
to do the good to the community. Even if it's a woman that has a very good idea that really can contribute so much in the mainstream economy, but because she's a woman, she needs to prove herself. First of all, prove myself that I am capable and I'm able. then prove that your idea can work, and prove that your idea deserves funding. And that for me is what brings all the challenges. The stereotype again that says, because you're a woman, and again, here's the thing. The stereotype that says women belong in the kitchen, again, it's not only coming from men alone. Even women, we look at each other like that to say, what do you think you're doing? And who says this idea of yours is going to work? Just go and sell magwinya and just take care of your children. And forget about this scaling, this growth, this thing. Those are the terminologies that needs to be spoken by men. So I think as women, I know the topic today speaks to women entrepreneurs, but in this Women Month, we need to also broaden up and think about the women themselves, whether you are in business, whether you are not in business, you're an employee, or whether you are a mother that is at home. This mindset of not supporting each other as women, not embracing the growth that we see in each other as women. I think that is the main challenge. It has to start with us. So we're speaking about these barriers that are affecting the growth and of the businesses from women. But how do we break those barriers is to, first of all, support each other as women to start with, and also to unlearn the culture that says you're not good enough as a woman. And I know that one is we're going to get to that one later on, talking about the imposter syndrome. But you're not good enough. Before I tell myself, another woman already told me that. And not even by verbal words, but just, not supporting me by the looks. Who do you think you are? And writing each other off as women. Those are the barriers that we need to break first before we can move to men. You need to support us. And another thing that brings that is I read an article where a report from Mastercard, right? Let me just, it's Mastercard, yes. So they did a study on the support for women, and they found out that countries like your New Zealand, your US, and Canada, women entrepreneurship is thriving there. And they are actually really upskilling and supporting women entrepreneurs in the space in terms of knowledge asset, in terms of financial access and entrepreneurial support. That's what they're doing. And are part and things that helps them to support these women in those three elements, which is knowledge, which is financial access, and supporting them in the entrepreneurial activities. Because one, the study itself found that in those economies, women are in the leadership. So if the government is going to support the women entrepreneurs, it's because there's a woman in the leadership in that government department that is sitting in, number one. And because there's a woman who is representing, you find that in those economies, therefore, they encourage women to study, to enroll many of them in the tertiary institutions to earn the knowledge, that's number one. And you find that in the same space, not only to study, they support their small businesses. They also look at the fact that they analyze what are the small the agencies, which are agencies in the countries that are supporting women, and they work with those agencies. So it's not only to say you have a business as a woman and that's it. Your business, we see it as an NGO that is giving back to the community, or you only focusing, or you want to put food on the table for your children. It's not that. It's to say, how can we work with you as a women, as women, because we understand if we support you, we are supporting the entire community, the entire nation. So how do we work with you? And first of all, we need to empower our own organizations first and have women in the leadership. The women that are going to speak the language because they understand how women act. They understand the needs of the women on the ground. And therefore, they're able to bring all these ideas and all these initiatives that supports women.
Interesting. So that means we must start taking you to leadership position in government.
Only if they can allow me to do research. I love my research. I love my company. So
It's
yeah,
fine.
I'm
It's
good
fine.
where
That
I am.
can be arranged. That can be definitely arranged. Yola.
Yes.
Yola.
Dr. Matibe, I have a burning question. When we encourage women, right, to pursue entrepreneurship, and I'm specifically talking about women in townships, when we encourage them to pursue entrepreneurship, and we all know that in the entrepreneurial space, sometimes there's just not enough space. Like there's too many people doing the same thing. So how do we encourage women to get into business, but when they're already in business, things don't thrive because there's too many people selling the same thing? So how do we encourage women entrepreneurs, or how do we help them when they're inside? Because some of these women, they use their lost monies, and turns out their business is not booming because everyone is either selling or doing the same thing.
Interesting question. I wish you could have asked that question when we are in the class. Then I will expand and okay. So thank you for that question, Yola. First, I think we need to take one step back. You said, first of all, how do we encourage, who encourages women? Women, I would say, my understanding is women are entrepreneurial anyway. You don't have to come and encourage me. I just lost my job. I need to feed my family. I need to come up with a plan. And the plan is, let me see, what is it that I'm good at? And that is how entrepreneurship within women, especially in the township, starts. What am I good at? What do I know? And I'm going to use what I know, what I'm good at, to put food on the table for my children. And sometimes that's how it starts. Or I lost my job in the formal sector, and I need to start something in the informal. And we saw that with COVID, that majority of people that lost their jobs in the formal sector, they were absorbed in the informal sector. And when you look at who is leading the informal sector, it's women. So women created jobs for those who lost in the informal sector. But I wanted us to go back to, many people are doing many things and the space is small. There's a difference between a small business and an entrepreneurial business. A small business is, I want to sell my magwinya, I want to sit at the corner, and the money that I'm going to make, I will just take my kids to school, and I would then also help in the house, or whatever the reason is. But my aim is just to make money with my magwinya at the corner that I'm selling. Entrepreneurial activity or entrepreneurial business, on the other hand, says, what is the problem? Where is the gap? What solution do I need to come up with for this problem? And in that space, I do social entrepreneurship. My research is on social entrepreneurship, where I use the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, to find a societal problem and use the SDGs to solve that problem. I want to go, and in that way, I'm saying, you find that there's no water in the area, for instance. So if there is no water in the area, then you ask yourself, that is the problem. And how can I solve this problem? And therefore, you're not only starting a business to make money for yourself, but as you make money, you're also solving a social problem. You're giving people in the community water. And that is that. So with entrepreneurial business, that is where that's where innovation comes in. What can I do to solve the problem? You see the problem, and you want to solve the problem not only for yourself and your family, but for the community, but for the society. And as you solve the problem, it doesn't stop there. You're always looking for the next big thing. What's the next big thing? So what? That's the question, if you're an entrepreneur. So within the women's space, then, as women solve the problem, nowadays we see Angara, the African attire, is what we do. that is what we wear. So a woman entrepreneur would have seen that to say, okay, so women in South Africa, not only women but men as well, they like to wear African attire, especially they like to wear attire, especially in the weddings, imigiti, and so forth. But now, one woman came and said, how can we make it more stylish? That you don't only have to wear your African attire at the weddings, at the funerals, but also you can wear it to work. You can actually wear it to the office, to class. And that is entrepreneurship, because you're always looking for an opportunity. You always see the problem and you're trying to solve the problem. And that is that. And if that's how the women can think about, that's how they can think to say, what is the problem? Where is the opportunity? Then in that way, it's easier, because they won't see the space as small. There's huge space for entrepreneurship. I mean, research tells us that entrepreneurship is an answer to poverty alleviation, to inequality, to contribution to the economy as well. If that is the answer, why is there no space? So we need to move away from being the mindset of a small business to an entrepreneurial mindset of answering the question and solving the problem. I don't know. I think I answered your question.
Yes, you answered it perfectly. Could you maybe share
maybe
some...
if I wanted to add quickly on that note, Yolanda, and say, if I were to expand on that, again, we need to also, as women, there's so many sectors, there's so many industries. So we don't have to only be in the food industry. We have, I mean, there's women in science. The space is still not doing so well at the moment, because there's still few women in science, and that is the gap where women need to play in. There's women in engineering, that science is engineering, maths, and so forth. So that's one example that I can bring. So we need to see where are the gaps, and where us as women can venture into those steps, those gaps, because nothing is stopping us from getting there, isn't it? So we need to pause, and first of all, don't rush into getting into business, but find the gaps and be the solution to the problems.
Thank you, ma'am. Could you share some examples of specific societal prejudices that women entrepreneurs have faced, and how has those biases have impacted their journeys, and what strategies have proven effective in overcoming these challenges?
Okay, I think we've already covered that question, but I will summarize it very quickly. When we were talking about women being seen based on culture as belonging in the kitchen, when we were talking about women being seen as, you're the one who's supposed to take care of the children, and you're the one who's supposed to take care of the family, and men are these nice positions and are the ones that are suitable for men. That is those are the biases. And because of that, because of the mindset that women are seen as they belong in the kitchen, then you find that even the funders themselves, when they have to fund women businesses, they think twice. Unless you find the investors that has a woman, as I said, women in there, or the investor herself is a woman, they are vested to women businesses. It's still a challenge for women in businesses to get funding. It's still a challenge to access market. It's still a challenge, but that should not end there. Hence, we spoke about how do we break the barriers. That should not end there, because we need to see women as humans. I think when it comes to business, we need to not see the gender at all, but see the solutions to the problems that are facing the country, that are facing the continent, and that are facing the world. And because we see these challenges, these problems that are facing the country, we have humans who are willing and who are able and are capable of solving these problems. And if these humans comes with an idea that can solve the problem, for me, I'm saying we shouldn't see the gender, we should see the solution and fund the solution to the problem. That is that.
Yes, ma'am.
I agree. So, Yola, do you have any
Addition
other
to
questions
the
to ask? Yeah.
Yes, sir. I have one last question.
Yes.
In addition to the external barriers that women face, they also face internal barriers such as low self-esteem and the imposter syndrome. So, how can women entrepreneurs cultivate self-resilience and self-belief in the business world?
That's a good question. Yola. But I want to just take one step back and say it's not a challenge or a problem only that is only facing women entrepreneurs. Imposter syndrome is a challenge that is facing most or majority of women. Let me give you an example about myself. So I arrive at my company at Gibbs, and look, I deserve to be there. I qualify to be there. I have everything that it takes to be at Gibbs because I wasn't just given it. I went through all the process and I was hired. But when I got there, remember I said, Mina, I'm from township and so forth. So because I'm from the township and that's the place I know, I remember when I was sitting with my colleagues, and the conversation is, when I went to this country, when I went to that country, when I met with the CEO, when I was with the president, and Mina, I'm thinking, but Mina, I only see Uputsona, but down there in the Eastern Cape, and so it was even difficult for me to speak in the meetings, to do anything, because I'm like, I don't think I belong here. I don't think I should be here, but it took, again, mentoring, it took coaching for me to accept that you are there because, look, if you were not supposed to be there, you wouldn't have been there. You are there because you are supposed to be there. So, for instance, if you enter the room, you need to own the space. You wouldn't have entered if you're not supposed to be in that room. So one thing so that's what I wanted to say. It's not only because you are a woman who is in business because that you have a imposter syndrome. The fact that we are women, we are going through a lot, Bazalwane, and that's just hectic. But here's the thing. How do we deal with that? First of all, remember I said, before I can even judge myself, other women are judging me. So I think one is to support each other as women. But here's the thing. Let's just embrace, accept the success, small and success that we have, Agiti. They say practice self-compassion as a woman. And not only as a woman entrepreneur, but also as a woman, we need to be kind to ourselves. And that's something that we lack as women. We are so hard on ourselves. If you were aiming, for instance, 80% in your exam and you get just 70 or 60, you're going to be so hard on yourself. And look, you worked so hard. You studied for that. And I'm talking to you now, Yola. You studied for that. And the fact that you got that 60, you passed. And you need to go back and say, where did I go wrong? And how do I fix that? And how do I improve to make sure that in the next exam, I get better, right? So we need to be kind to ourselves and really celebrate those small and success. That's number one that we need to do as women, not only as women entrepreneurs. Number two, we need to also build confidence. And confidence in terms of how we handle ourselves in public, how we speak, and so forth, and be consistent in what we do, and also have that positive self-reflection. What do I mean by that? I mean that, as I said, you need to embrace those successes and speak to yourself, to yourself, Yola, you made it. Yes, Yola, it was hard, but I managed, and to where I am, I'm okay. And I'll start again tomorrow. instead of being hard on ourselves. We also, number 3, we need to build a support system. Have a circle of the sisters, and there's so many networks out there that we can work together to support. That works to support. Another day I was out having my coffee. I love my coffee, Angit. And just next to me, it was a group of ladies sitting there, and they had their own plaque. There says Motherhood Club. And that is their support. That is their support system, their support structure as mothers. I didn't ask whether it's mothers for young kids or mothers for, or as long as you're a mother, you're part of it. I didn't ask. But for me, that is one support structure that we need as women. And you need people who are positive. And we need to associate ourselves with people who understand, accept us for who we are as women, and who are supporting us for our ideas. And we need friends that will tell you, hey, Mata, that one is not going to work. This is why I'm saying it's not going to work. And this is my suggestion to you. But we need that support system of people who believes in us and of people who believes in our abilities as women. So it's not only, imposter syndrome is not only in the people who are running businesses, women in business, but as a woman, we go through that. But I'm thinking again, we are so scared. This imposter syndrome is through us that we don't even want to talk about our successes. The reason why we're not celebrating our successes, we don't want to talk about them. And the digital space is where you can voice what your success is. You don't have to say anything. For me, when I started NAMI, it was hard. I'm like, yo, people are going to say I'm boosting. And again, it's religion. That boils back to culture. Culture says you can only say much. If you go beyond, now you think you're better than people. Now you think you are this, you think you're that. But in this day and age, we need to also show that as women, we can do it. And the fact that I am here, I'm a woman, and I went through this journey. I think it's better for me to share with other women my experiences, to share with other women my challenges, to share with other women my successes. In that way, somebody who grew up in a small town like Virginia, who was about to give up, and they see Utidi speaking now on this live session, they're like, Nami, I can do it. If she grew up here in a shack and went to that school that I'm going to, therefore, Nami, I can do it. So it's not about bragging. It's celebrating our successes, our achievement, and it's also showing other women that if I could do it, now you can. And that is where we start by dealing with this imposter syndrome. So use the platforms to tell your story, and you will see. Eventually, you will be fine.
But
Thank you, ma'am.
But I hear you, Dr. Matibe. What if the platforms are not available? What then?
There are networks. There are networks that we can build on our own. As before you were lost, I was telling Yola that one day when I was sitting in a coffee shop, and just next to me there was a big table of these ladies who were sitting there, and the board that I read was Motherhood Club. And there's no social media there. I don't know how they met. I don't know how they came about that club. But for me, it's face-to-face, it's local, and maybe they use WhatsApp, I don't know. But there's a point in time where as women, as mothers, then we can come together and talk about our challenges and talk about our goodies. We'll say, you're not alone, I'm here, but this is how I'm solving my problem. And now you can do it. And I think that brings us to intersectionality as a theory. My colleague, Professor Karen Skieper's research on the space. So it's not my space, but I think as women, again, we need to embrace the diversity. We need to understand that we are different from different backgrounds, and we have different tastes, needs, preferences. But okusalayo, we are women. And I think we need to come together. Those networks, whether social media, whether face-to-face networks, especially in your local township, where we have churches, where we have community halls, and many other places where, as women, we can come together and share the common goal that we are sharing. Like this one, they were sharing motherhood. So it depends on the common goal that we are sharing as women. Let's come together. And on that space, myself and my other 4 colleagues. So it's 4 men and me as a woman. We're working on a project where we're looking at the work-life balance for women. And the question is, what does work-life balance look like, especially for women in a context like Africa? We spoke about the challenges to say they do the work, where the paid work. I need to go to the office and do the work. But again, research says women spend on average 3 hours of unpaid work at home. So that is also a work. So if I have 2 jobs, paid and unpaid, what does work-life balance look like in my space as a woman? And these are the questions that we need to, as women, bring us up, get in the room and share. And maybe if Yola, you come to me and say, for me, work-life balance means this. Oh, for me, I don't have work-life balance because I go to work and at home, I still need to work. And so for me, I work 24/7. So what do I still need to call it work-life balance? And even if you are a woman who's running a business, so you have your own business, but you also have a family to run. And we know that South Africa, for instance, majority of mothers are single mothers. So what does work-life balance look like for this entrepreneur who's trying to raise her children by herself and also run this business that she wants to really scale it and make it so big that it's not only focused in the South African market, but it's local, it's globally focused. So that is basically that. So we do have your networks. And I want to say 9 August 1956 is a very good case that says intersectionality does work if we now embrace the diversity and follow a common goal. The women from different backgrounds, different colors, different genders, they came together and say, we want to stop this. And because they had that goal, they stopped it. And look at where we are today. So, yeah, I mean, there's many ways.
But again, well said. But again, how do we get women to that point of 1956?
That's another challenge. That's another
because right now it's like there was a common burning issue that put them together. Fast forward, it looks like they've gone back to little islands where there is a class issue. These are uneducated. These are educated. This group of women are domestic workers. So all of them have gone back into small islands and they've broken down the community to smaller chunks.
Yeah.
How do we break that barrier and they can see and re-socialize them to see that the plight of one woman is the plight of all? How do we put them together for them to have the same agenda, to have the same goal of defeating this challenge that they're facing?
Right. I don't have all the answers, Putwan. But what I can think of right now is we need, as women, we have a common goal, right? One, women, there's a stereotype over women to say that still you belong in the kitchen. And if you start a business, it's either an NGO or it's either a small community a business that feeds into the community, still an NGO. So we have a common goal to fight the stereotype, both from the social point of view and the business point of view, because the reason that the society still sees us as women as people who don't have to be working, especially in higher positions or running a successful business. Also, the fact that we still have funders who we need to work twice as much for them to invest in our business. The common goal is, how do we break that stereotype and show that we are capable as women and that we do have ideas that can solve the societal problems. And that common idea, I think, if it can be preached to the women, I still don't have answers as to how. And that will bring the women together. But again, those networks, look, we have so many initiatives in especially in South Africa alone. We have initiatives that are there. We have those networks, organizations that are there to bring women together. It's just that what I see is they are in silos, and there's no, as a stokvel, you have a head where the stokvels are being registered too. But these initiatives lacks monitoring and evaluations. So maybe if there could be an organization that is these initiatives that are supporting women is registered too, and we can access these organizations, this initiative through that main body, and maybe speak to the main body, and maybe the common goal will be spread down on the ground, and that will solve a problem, I'm thinking. Because now you're reminding me of another article that I read where it says, when you look at the government policies globally, only 10% of the government policies speak to supporting women businesses. And that on its own says it is a problem. If we still preach again that majority of businesses are run by women, and if we say that informality actually became an answer to the economy where pandemic was taking over, informality that is also still dominated by women, and we only have 10% of policies that are in support of women businesses, that is a problem. And again, maybe especially in emerging market, we take the same model of the three countries I mentioned earlier to say US, Canada, and New Zealand. They have majority of women in the leadership that are actually understanding the gaps on the ground and say we need to support women entrepreneurs. And a good case is it's Rwanda. Rwandan government in the in their government departments, most of the people sitting there are women. And if maybe that could be a case that we can use in other African countries as well, and say, how do we push to increase the percentage in the leadership? And also in the private sector, how do we increase the position? And that is not my space, so I cannot dwell much on it. But if we have representatives who are women, who understand what is happening on the ground, and surely they will influence the policy, and that 10% will change.
Okay, thank you. But just as a follow-up, there's an argument that states that collaboration, mentorship can be powerful tools for breaking down barriers. Could you provide example of successful mentorship initiatives, if any, or networks that have helped women entrepreneurs overcome challenges and amplify their impact on the business realm? I know you've made example of some networks, but if we were to dwell more and just give a broader or many 2 or 3 other examples, what would that be?
All right. One, I spoke about Master Start Index of Women Entrepreneurs, right? So it tracks, they support women entrepreneurs. So what they do, they track the progress of women entrepreneurs across the 58 economies or 58 countries. And when they track, they found that 87% of women business owners globally were affected by the pandemic. So what they do, they see that how can they support those women, and in the report, and I read that within the 87%, 59% of women worked in the sectors that were hardest hit by the pandemic. So those are that the report says. The MasterCard then comes in and say, how can we support you? And if the people who are watching right now can go in the website, they will see many initiatives that are being run by MasterStart to say to show how they support the women entrepreneurship or entrepreneurs specifically. That's number one. Another one that I can think of is World Bank's women's networking initiatives that also looks at the women entrepreneurs and how they can support them. And there's impact again that is showing in the website and there's report available as to how this initiative is supporting women entrepreneurs. So I just quickly Googled and see in the country what are other initiatives that are there to support women entrepreneurs, and there's many that I'm not sure if I should mention them or will I be advertising them, I don't know. But if you just Google in and say supporting initiatives that are supporting women entrepreneurs in South Africa, there's a list that is there that comes out. Also, I spoke about digital visibility. So you have blogs that are on the social media, on the platforms, that also shows the successful support of women entrepreneurs in the country. There's a lot that is happening, but as I said, because now there's no body that has monitoring and evaluation, people are doing so much, but in silos.
So Dr. Matibe, so ku nkgono le ausi le auntie wa ko township, what do we do to nkgono le ausi le auntie?
Okay, so let me step back. Continue.
Because auntie and OC, le kuku, le nkgono, all of them, they don't have access to these platforms. They don't understand this lingo. How do we go back? And if kuku or nkgono or OC or me or auntie about understand, that means they're bringing up other girl children.
Yeah.
How do we ensure that we empower them so that they can empower the girl child, and hopefully that the girl child won't have the same challenges as we go forward?
Interesting. So there's initiatives. Let's go back to Nkgono Nomme in the township. We have churches in the township, right? And either it's churches, So with the churches in the townships or community forums in the townships, that is where you would have these platforms whereby, I know from a church point of view, you've got the seminars where the church would bring the women in the room and invite the speakers like myself to come and talk and say, talk about your journey, or you invite somebody to come and talk about financing, or somebody to come and talk about the business point of view, business access. And so in the churches, there are seminars that are taking place, I know. And I and my friend also started an initiative called Devoted Women. And the whole point of Devoted Women is to empower women, first of all, to deal with imposter syndrome, Yola, because we need to understand, we believe that, first of all, you need to understand who you are, your identity. Why are you there? And why are you alive? Why are you alive? Why are you here? What is your purpose? And from there, what is it that you need to do to make a difference? But if you don't understand who you are, if you don't understand your own identity, it's not easy for you as a woman to actually go out there and make a difference. So there are initiatives like your Devoted Women. There are initiatives, there are seminars in churches, in the community forums that are available for women in the townships to actually deal with these things. Hence, I said one of my project is looking at the work-life balance in an African context. And what we are aiming to do in the project is also to go back to your community leaders and say, help us to access women, put these women in the room and discuss what I've mentioned, to say, what does work-life balance mean to you? What does it look like to you? And get all these different views of women. And all these entrepreneurs, we want them in the room as well to say, as an entrepreneur, what does work-life balance mean to you? What does it look like? And from there, really research. We believe that our research is going to impact and change lives and maybe influence the policies in terms of how they view a work-life balance for a woman in an African context, because it's different. You have unpaid work, you have paid work. So do we call it work-life balance? And you also have somebody who's sitting and saying, but Mina, if Mina, I need a job. And if Yola is fighting for a work-life balance and I need a job, so you as the boss, Botswana, you say, Yola, please hamba, I need Utsidi because he's willing to work. And does that still covers me because I still need to pay the bills? So these are the initiatives from research point of view, to the initiatives like Devoted Women, to the churches and the community forums, bringing the women in the township, bringing the businesses that are run by women, and listen to them, listen to their challenges, and bring this expertise. And also, I think now that I'm talking, I'm also thinking bringing the expertise means, again, bringing the private sector, bringing the government representatives in the room with the women to say, what solutions do you have for our challenges as women entrepreneurs in the township? What solutions do you have? What initiatives are there? Because you might find that some of the women don't even understand, don't even know there are initiatives available, there is support available for them as women entrepreneurs, especially in the township space. So we need to bring these experts, we need to bring government representatives, we need to bring private sector in the room, in the township, to speak to the women and to see the challenges and work together as solutions. That's my take.
Yes. I'm just going to put one question, and this one we might not even want to discuss it. Township versus rural, urban township versus rural. Rural, ugogo, umama, umakazi, or auntie, and whoever, they are illiterate.
Yes.
And we want them to be productive in the townships, in the rural areas. Two, we want them to sustain themselves. Whatever they grow, whatever they sell, they need to start using the resources around them to make money out of them. So they must be entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
That's why I'm thinking this is a topic for another day. How do we ensure that the development of women, or the breaking of barriers, it's inclusive? And this, I think, is a topic that we need to look at. But I would like you to look at that angle as well and say, everything said, what do we do with the rural women? Yeah. Anyway, one of the goals of this webinar, Dr. Matibe, is to highlight actionable tips for navigating the business landscape. What are some practical steps that women entrepreneurs can take to proactively address challenges, build resilience, and create pathways for success in their entrepreneurial journey? or journey?
Interesting. So, one thing that I'm going to say is women entrepreneurs should not wait until they have a perfect plan to engage with the bank. They need
Yes.
to, and earlier on, we spoke about networks. We spoke about building the circles, finding people that believe in you. So, first of all, women entrepreneurs need to say, I have an idea right there. Share your idea with somebody that you can trust, or don't wait until the business has grown in order to. So last week I was talking in another invite session, and I was saying, we know as women that funding is a challenge for us. So we shouldn't just wait and say, we don't have funding. For me, I said, for instance, if you want to open a cleaning company, for instance, in a township, so you start first by cleaning your own house, and you take the before and after pictures, and you put them on social media. I said digital visibility is the way to go nowadays. So you put it on social media, and I can see that, oh, Utsidi cleaned the house, and the next time you clean another house, maybe your mother's house is a young woman, and say, can I clean it before and after? This is what you can do. So this says to me interior designing, right? And as you always keep the records of what you are doing, put it there, because even the funders, they want to see evidence that you've started something and this something can be sustainable. So as you start, record everything, put evidence, show evidence that you've started and you're going somewhere with it, not only in terms of your financials, but also your work. Document everything that you're doing. So don't wait until it's late, number one. Number two, really find your people, right? Attend those networks and be visible. Some of them are paid, but you know your goal. Remember, I spoke about the common goal. Come together as women and say, we want to attend, so let's contribute and go attend that function. That's what you can do. And very important, I said we need to celebrate our milestone as women. We need to celebrate our successes and be kind to ourselves. So if we are kind to ourselves, celebrate those, be compassionate to ourselves. So I know I wanted to do it, but I couldn't. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. I'll try again. So be kind to ourselves and find the people, belong to a network, and really find a mentor. It's very important to find a mentor, because I remember last year I was invited to one talk, and we had two entrepreneurs in the room. One was entrepreneur with a mentor, one entrepreneur without a mentor. And the one without a mentor went on and on and on about the challenges, about the hardships of accessing the market, the ups, the downs. The one with a mentor was so smooth and say, my mentor showed me and told me that if I go left, this is going to take longer. I'd rather go right. So the mentor has been there, has lived and has experienced, therefore is able to say, here you jump, here you sit, here you do that. So it's very important that as a woman entrepreneur, and a woman in professional world as well, you need to have a mentor and a coach. And that will make your life easier for you.
Well said. Okay. We've got some comments that we're going to go through for you. Maybe some of them are questions.
Okay.
Yola, do you want to take the first comment?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
The is from Cici Po, and she says that this discussion is very empowering because there are many challenges faced by women entrepreneurs. This discussion is offering strategies, insights, and actionable tips to overcome obstacles and promote gender equality in business. Onwaba says one woman entrepreneur stated that she can't pinpoint a time where she felt that she faced or challenges or stereotypes as an entrepreneur because she was a woman. I was taken aback by that because I assumed she would have a plethora of challenges to share. So it brought me to a question as to, does this mean that as a society we're moving forward with regards to gender bias, or we as women are desensitized to such that we do not recognize them? If we have been desensitized, then how do we? That was the end of the comment.
Yeah, maybe how do we go about that? I think it's a good
Yeah.
question, that one, and it's a topic for another day, because yes, there's two things here. Either we've been desensitized, or either we just decided, you know what, this is really, it was very smooth. And yes, we do have one, we've had few women who haven't, like, as I said, the example that I made now, to say one woman said, I haven't experienced any challenges. Why? Because I had a mentor who was helping me, right? And another woman says, it was so hard because I had to do everything and learn as I go. And that really affected my business. My aim was to say within 3 years I'll be here. But because I had to do everything and learn at the same time, it took me forever. In 7 years, I'm where I wanted to be in 3 years. And the one with mentor said, it took me 5 years to be where I am. So it's another, the person who made that comment, I think if they could elaborate, maybe would find that, and maybe ask that lady a question to say, how is it that you make it so smooth? And you might find that there was a mentor or another story. So yeah.
Or maybe it's a question, sorry, Yola. Maybe it's a question that we need to revisit, like the rural one.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
So we want to commit you to come back.
Yes.
Okay. I will come back, but yes.
So Matel says, good evening, Python family. A young girl in the rural area does not have access to such important content and motivating discussions in order for them to be empowered. How are you bridging that gap?
Interesting question, and I think that I answered that question earlier with Butsonabo's question when I was saying, and the challenge again in rural areas, there's not even network for infrastructure to say, okay, I'll just use my phone and watch from my phone. But then that is where I said we need to bring the expertise, the experts. We need to bring government representatives. We need to bring private sector representatives in the rural areas, put them in the community hall. And let's really deal with the issues that are facing women, that are facing women entrepreneurs in the rural areas. For now, the solution is bring the expertise in the rural areas and allow people to view their challenges, and let's discuss in the room until we have good infrastructure, until we have advanced rural areas. I don't know how will that look like. But until then, we need to bring the expertise in the rural areas. And I'm reminded, Yola, quickly about a gentleman whom we had an event, UN Global Compact last year had an event at Gibbs, and one young man brought her sister in the room. And she mentioned exactly that, to say, I brought my sister and she got all this information, but I'm wondering about other girls who are back at home who can't get this information. What do we do about them? And that is why I'm able to say, those who can bring their sisters, let them do. But I think it's few, it's just the handful of those, but the majority are there back in the rural areas and can't get this. So let's solve that.
Sorry, Yola, before you continue. One of Pike's basic principles is that we need to get to a stage where rural people don't chase development goes to them. So on that note, I'm going to leave it there. We need to revisit rural challenges, especially for women because they play a very critical role.
Exactly.
So it's a topic, Yola, again, that I think we need to visit and pester Dr. Matibe to bring other people on board as well, and we can really discuss this rural plight or challenge.
That would be
Back to you,
good.
Yola.
Maytel says that majority of Black women are single mothers. Noma Nesi says that, good evening, everyone. Here I have a question, Dr. Matibe. What advice would you give to aspiring women entrepreneurs who are just starting their journey and are daunted by potential challenges? Are there mindset shifts or strategies that can help them navigate and overcome barriers?
Good question, but the question is so broad. One thing that I would ask is, why did you start the business? Where do you want to see the business? And maybe if you can ask those questions, are you starting because remember we spoke about small business and entrepreneurial business? So is it a small business? Is it an entrepreneurial? And where do you want to see it? But I think I would say you need to understand why. Simon Sinek says people don't buy your what, they buy your why, the story behind why you started. So if you can understand why you started, and we spoke about many things in this session today to say, start with what you have, and don't wait until it's in the end. Don't wait until the business has grown. If you know why, you will document all the what you are doing. I said to you, document not only your financials but also what you are doing. If it's as made an example here, a cleaning company that you want to start, or interior design that you want to start, document everything to show evidence to say when you go for if it's time for funding, then you can go and say, this is what I've been doing and these are my financials and I need to expand, I need to grow, so what do I do from there? And yes, up until so far, unfortunately, we are still working towards proving ourselves, working twice as much as compared to men. And we're going to continue doing that until there's an answer. But we shouldn't wait and say, there's so many challenges, there are barriers. But start with what you have in your hand and don't stop. And attend those networks where women come together and they share their challenges, they share their frustrations, but they also share experiences and strategies to go forward. So be part of those clubs, those initiatives, and I think you should be fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. You are muted, Yola. We can't hear you.
My apologies. She also says that you spoke about unlearning and relearning of new things and culture to reduce biases of saying women belong in the kitchen or taking care of kids. So how do we track progress in terms of reducing biases and overcoming challenges for women entrepreneurs? What key metrics or indicators can help gauge the effectiveness of efforts to create a more equitable entrepreneurial landscape?
Yeah. I don't have the right answer now. I need to go and think about it. But I'm thinking earlier when I mentioned that we have initiatives that are actually doing so much to deal with these biases, to deal with these challenges, to help women to learn and relearn and unlearn these cultures. But however, because at the current moment, these initiatives are working in silos, one need to really go into the social media, into your website and read and search what are these, which are these networks that are closer to me that I can attend. The challenge is they don't have a body where they're reporting to. So if there was a body like your Stockfell, for instance, as I mentioned, then you would go to the body and say, which initiatives closer to me, and how, or maybe the body will have data to say, this is how we're tracing it. This is how we're tracing the progress. This is how far we have gone through in terms of dealing with the biases. Data is available, but I think it's sitting with individual initiatives. So I don't have the data at the moment, but I think, yeah, that's how far I can go.
Okay. On that note, I thank you. Anything to say, Ola, before we wrap up? We are 2 minutes to the time that we promised Dr. Matibe we're going to finish.
All I'd like to say to Dr. Matibe is just thank you for spending time with us and giving us so much insight. And we really do hope that we have a follow-up.
Thank you.
Dr. Matibe, thank you very much. It was really insightful. We learn every day, and we need to be ready as humans to learn every day for us to grow and to look at things differently, and not to see challenges that we encounter every day as individual challenges, but everyone faces challenges. It's not only women, as you've said, it's across the human race. So let's go back and find ways and means of unlearning and relearning. I think socialization is a very interesting thing. As humans, we're social beings, and I'm sure we can all sit consciously and re-socialize that the two genders are equal.
Yes.
If I want to leave a controversial one, personally, I believe that women are superior than men in many ways. Men can't multitask. A man looking after a child and bringing bread on the table will cry and run away. A woman does it every day without complaining, without talking about it every day as if it's an important thing that she has just achieved. Men, most of them, their wives leave them with children for an hour, and they sound like peacocks. Yes, they sound like peacocks, and and want to be seen that he has achieved something for the day. It's something that a woman does it and has done it for many centuries. So on that note, thank you very much on this Women's Month. I think we are blessed to have you who's always willing to come and give the support when every time we call you. But this one, we're going to keep you, and I'm saying but, so that we erase the good things that we've said. But you need to come back and address the rural matter on women. We need to look at those metrics or tracking systems of checking if things really on the ground are changing, the environment is improving for women. And next time we call you, maybe we must call you to come in and come with a colleague that is a technologist who's going to be able, you look at the entrepreneur side, hardcore, and he addresses or she addresses the other aspect of why are we continuing in the technology space, even on AI cars, always also being programmed to have biases towards women. So those are the type of things that we need to check. Very soon, Chat GPT, when you log in, it will say, "Good morning, sir." And question is, if we don't stop it, how is it going to know that it's a sir, not a ma'am? Miss.
Good one.
Okay.
Good one.
So on that note, thank you very much. I stay blessed. Please, 1 second. Let me just close the broadcast.
Thank you for